we got to have this refugee discussion. There's been a division in the right, and well, with the candidates at least, on these Gazan. I guess you could refugees is what the way that their media is referencing them as. Welcome back to the program. Top of the second hour. Dana Loesch here with you. The Florida governor, in addition to that, they also did this thing called Air DeSantis. And I thought this was interesting because the way that I have seen this handled, at least at the federal level, was very interesting. So first off, welcome back to the program. Top of the second hour, Dana Loesch with you. You can listen coast to coast. Find us Facebook, YouTube, channel 347, Direct TV. This, the federal government they've been doing what these repatriation flights, but I was reading some of the information about how that was done over the weekend, and the way that they do it is apparently you have to sign a promissory note, basically saying that you could get billed for it. That's true. So I was looking at the reporting on this too. It's at travel.state.gov. And the way that, this is, so they said departure assistance to U.S. citizens. This is from information for U.S. citizens about a U.S. government-assisted evacuation. So this has to deal with getting people out of war zones, basically. And so the way that it reads is that individuals evacuated on a U.S. government-coordinated transport, charter military flights, you have to sign an evacuee manifest and promissory note prior to departure. It says that the U.S. law requires that departure assistance to private U.S. citizens or third world nationals be provided on a reimbursable basis to the maximum extent practicable. And that evacuees, by taking a U.S. government-coordinated transport, evacuees are obligated to pay the cost of their transportation. The amount billed is based on the cost of a full fare economy flight, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm putting that because that's important to note. And that the way that it's incredibly important to note, because the State Department would try to pick people who were apparently stranded in Cyprus, as I understood. They were stranded in after they were able to get out, after they got out of Israel, the State Department apparently had boats to take people to Cyprus and try to get them to Europe. But every single one of them, according to the way that the media reported it, they had to sign these notes, et cetera, et cetera. There's just a very different approach in how the Biden administration was handling evac. It's still bad. I don't think they learned a hell of a lot from Afghanistan. And then the way that the Florida governor handled all of this, they made sure they coordinated these flights. People were so mad about this, and I'm trying to figure out why they were mad. Adam Kinzinger was mad about this. Everybody was mad about this. So he helped organize these flights to fly stranded Floridians out of Israel. That was his whole plan to do it. And the internet came up with memes, and they were calling it Air DeSantis. They said that he issued an executive order to send planes to Israel to rescue there were 20,000 Americans who were apparently stranded there. 1,000 of them were Floridians, according to the administration. And the way that they said they were going to handle it, if they were going to charge people for the flights like the feds would, they said no. And I was reading the executive order that he put out. And saying that Floridians stranded in Israel, they will be evac'd. They said that continuing to present date, et cetera, et cetera. They're not going to, and the way that he approached this is so different. When you look at the quote unquote federal assistance, you have to pay, and then then you get taken to Cyprus, to Greece or Germany, and then you stay there. The flights that DeSantis was arranging apparently bring you right back to Florida. And I was looking at this from the State Department. It was an email from the State Department, actually, that I'm going to drop this in Slack. They said that they were writing, blah, 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 blah. You cannot choose your destination. They assign you to the next available flight or ship. And then you're kind of on your own after they get you to that point. So if they got you to one of those 3 areas, then you were pretty much like on your own after that. Big difference between the way that DeSantis was doing it, isn't there? Why is it so much easier for him to do this? I mean, so much easier. So see, that's the problem. When you have, because they have a major surplus in Florida. A major surplus. When you properly manage your state's finances, you don't have to charge people to evacuate them from a war zone. Of course, you can't say that about Biden. I mean, they literally are able to provide that sort of help. They literally can do that. But meanwhile, the federal government's like, yeah, well, we'll get around to maybe sending a plane out, but you got to pay for your seat. Here, sign this note. That's how it has to work. You have to pay for your seat. That's how it works. Pretty amazing. But that's, again, what happens when you have a state where you've made very smart financial decisions and you run a crazy surplus. Can you imagine? I would love to run a budget surplus in the United States. Oh, my gosh. Can you imagine running a national surplus? Think of all the opportunities for activities. Think of all the ways you can be left alone. It's amazing. Texas runs a surplus. I think in spite of the weak Republican leadership, they run a surplus. Now, here's the thing. They were calling it DeSantis Airlines, and some in the media were being a little, it almost seems like they were upset about this. So they had the first air flights of 300 Americans evacuated. DeSantis met them at the airport, apparently. So they already got here. If they said if you were stranded in Athens, we might be able to assist you. Go to floridadisaster.org/Israel, et cetera, et cetera. They extended the offer because the Biden administration kept dragging their feet. So you already had a number of Floridians who were trapped in Israel that were able to get home. Literally, Ron DeSantis got them home. Everybody else is tweeting stuff, and lawmakers in D.C. are dithering, but DeSantis he brought them home. Just saying. That's unbelievable.